Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 31 titled Against the Judgment has just released, and it's given fans a much needed breather from the action-filled pacing of recent episodes. This week's episode carefully adapts material from chapters 621 to 624, and even including a couple of panels from chapter 626 at the end. Now what's really important is that this episode actually revisits and expands upon content which wasn't adapted in earlier episodes. So this is manga material spanning from chapters 612 to 614, and even some stuff from chapter 617. Even the pre-intro sequence for this episode begins with a lot of anime exclusive scenes which have been mixed into manga content. Now the highlight of this week's episode is undeniably AIZEN's reappearance. That entire scene with his Kurohitsugi had left me speechless. Seeing him also interacting with characters like Rukia and Urahara was at the same time refreshing but also nostalgic. This episode also had some dialogue from Hashward which was reworked and given to AIZEN, as it reveals that he was capable of detecting the power changes with Yhwach, hinting at his potential as Yhwach's equal. Some of my favorite anime original scenes in this week's episode involved Shunsui's character. Firstly, where we saw him give those orders across the battlefield, asking all of the Shinigami to gather. This was followed by his emotional rallying speech, preparing everybody for one final assault against Yhwach. All of this stuff was missing from the manga, and it perfectly captures the bond that all of the Gotei 13 share, and this is honestly the spirit of Bleach, and I'm so glad that the anime is taking advantage of moments of downtime by including critical character building scenes like this. Now you definitely want to stick around until the very end of this video, as I'm going to be talking about a post-credit scene which teases Yhwach's all-new transformation after he has fully absorbed the Soul King. So before I give everything away in the intro of the video, let's begin my complete review and analysis of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 31 Against the Judgment. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Holo Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. This episode gives us a much needed breather from the intense past 4 episodes of Core 3. For the most part, it adapts content from chapters 621 to 624, while also including scenes that weren't adapted from earlier chapters. And mixed in with all of this is a healthy amount of anime original content which elevates all of the manga material. The first half of the episode adapts quite a lot of manga material from chapters 621 to 623, as it covers Yhwach releasing the torrent of the Soul King's power, which then attacks the Soul Society. This leads to AIZEN making his grand entrance, and I cannot stress just how incredible AIZEN looks in this introductory frame. I would even go as far as to say that this is one of the most beautiful frames of AIZEN ever put to screen. After the opening song, we see AIZEN exchange some dialogue with Rukia as he congratulates her for achieving the rank of lieutenant. The anime then pretty much follows the manga content closely, as we even get an interaction between AIZEN and Urahara. Now an interesting anime original addition here is made where AIZEN detects the changes in Yhwach's Reiatsu, as he even gives us an explanation of what these dark creatures are. Now this is an incredible piece of information which pretty much confirms that AIZEN is at a relative power to Yhwach. This is because he is still a transcendent being, which allows him to sense the power of another transcendent being like Yhwach, who has just absorbed the Soul King. AIZEN even speaks to Urahara as though he knows that he cannot sense Yhwach's transcendent power. In all honesty, everything related to AIZEN's character was done perfectly in this episode. From him casting the chantless Kurohitsugi, to his attempt to shoot down the royal palace, and even his minor standoff with Mayuri. All of it was honestly incredible, and not to mention how he got knocked out by Nanana, and this was something that fans had assumed was going to be cut from the anime, but thankfully it's been included. It's because this scene demonstrated that AIZEN has a solid resistance to broken abilities like the underbelly. If it was anyone other than AIZEN who was hit by the underbelly, then it would have most likely proven to be fatal. The anime had actually shown us Nanana being hit by Ashvalen, and because of this, fans had assumed that he was killed off. But yeah, because of his scene with AIZEN, I'm glad that he survived. I was hoping that Robert, Candice, and Meninas would have also survived, but this doesn't appear to be the case. Following this, we get some of my favorite anime additional scenes in the entire series, as SHUNSUI sends out an order to the battlefield, gathering all of the Shinigami, asking them to return to the lab so that they can lend their energy in order to create a massive spirit bomb, a gate to the royal palace. So while he is giving these orders, we get some anime original scenes of some characters that we haven't seen in quite a long time. We see Mr. Afro-san Zenosuke Kuramadani, we even get to see Renji's one and only fanboy Rikiji, and we even catch up with Shino and Ryunosuke again. This episode does a fantastic job of SHUNSUI filling the role as a head captain. As a leader, he does a great job of encouraging all of the Shinigami to prepare for one final stand against Yhwach. You have to remember, everybody here is exhausted. They've just gone 12 rounds with the Quincy, some of them can barely stand. But SHUNSUI's words of encouragement are enough to give them the energy that they need to storm the royal palace. Ever since Call 1, the anime has done a fantastic job of showing SHUNSUI play the role of a captain commander, and this was something that was missing within the manga. So I am really glad that the anime has taken SHUNSUI's role as the leader of the Gotei 13 seriously. Episode 31 also seamlessly integrated several scenes that were not adapted in earlier episodes. For example, Nanao's interaction with Kinpachi. This was something that I was really looking forward to seeing in the anime, and also the arrival of the Vizars, which was handled very faithfully, as they pretty much adapted everything from the manga, including all of the comedic moments between Hiyori and Shinji. Now, when we learn that Bazbi, Giselle, and Lil Toto want to join the Shinigami and help them to defeat Yhwach, the anime expands upon this with SHUNSUI's speech that he gives to everybody, as he tells them that they need to put aside their old grudges, and they need to work together for the sake of the world. Additions like this are fantastic as it highlights SHUNSUI's mindset, which is very different to head captain Yamamoto, who had refused help from anyone other than the Gotei 13. Even Yhwach had commented on this when he had fought against him, questioning why he didn't get his arm healed by Orihime after the battle in Fate Karakura Town. So yeah, this entire speech helps us to understand SHUNSUI's mindset and his reasoning for joining forces with the Quincy. Again, stuff that was missing from the manga. We then get a energy gathering montage in this episode, which reworks material from prior manga chapters, and I think that everything flows a lot more smoothly. This scene also includes Mayuri's quick use of the Reiatsu amplification device, and this streamlines material from chapter 617. There aren't any theatrics, Mayuri just simply pushes a button and the amplification device appears. Something else which is different within this episode is that Ukitake and Mimihagi still appear to be alive. This is despite what we've seen unfold within previous episodes. Ukitake should have definitely died by now, but in the anime, Yhwach still hasn't absorbed Mimihagi, and Ukitake is still trying to stabilize the worlds. While this seems like a minor change right now, we don't know what implications this could have for the future of the story, especially when you consider that the symbol of Mimihagi had appeared on Uryu's hand, and if you've seen my theory on Uryu's new powers, then you'll know everything about my theory linking Mimihagi to the Quincy. Then we had that brief monologue from AIZEN where he comments upon how infuriating Ichigo is for having stepped foot into the royal palace before him. Before the credits of the episode, we get a lot of reworked material from the second half of chapter 624, and this is stuff involving Ichigo and the others at the royal palace. So we see that Orihime is exhausted after tirelessly healing Ichigo, Yoruichi, and the others, and then we get a comedic moment with Kon which reworks material from chapter 624. In the manga, Ichigo actually scolds Kon and insults him, while in the anime he thanks Kon for helping him. The ending scene before we cut to the credits is another highlight for episode 31. For so many years I've been waiting with anticipation to finally see Grimmjow return to the story, and finally seeing him appear from the Gargantuan banter, he looks absolutely incredible in the 1000 Year Blood War arc anime art style. I am really looking forward to seeing his expanded role within the story in Core 3 and 4, but for now I'm just glad that he's back in the story, and I know that Kubo and the anime staff are cooking up some incredible anime original material for him. The post-credit scene does show us Yhwach finishing his absorption of the Soul King. Now this is a bit different to how things unfold within the manga, as the episode ends with Yhwach attempting to transform the Soul King's palace into his fortress called Waterwelt. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the story content within this episode. I want to now talk about the animation within this episode. Episode 31, Against the Judgment, features the usual strong character art that we've come to know and love, with the inclusion of some particularly nice animation in certain scenes. Takumi Ichikawa's storyboard was a highlight, featuring cinematic framing and creatively dynamic angles in the episode, and one aspect that really stood out was the approach to animating the Soul King's remnants. I initially wondered if they were going to rely heavily on CGI to animate these black creatures, given the complexity of drawing each one individually, but instead the anime opted to depict them with a liquid-like quality, and they were primarily hand-drawn, which was very cool to see. Overall, the animation in this episode was average, but this is what you can expect for an episode that featured minimal to no action sequences, aside from the Shinigami fighting off those black creatures. Some of the best standout animated scenes in this episode involved AIZEN's character, from his chantless Kurohitsugi, and then the animation of him exerting his spiritual pressure as he prepared to shoot down the royal palace. In summary, this was a very solid episode despite being not very action focused. So this is my quick breakdown and analysis of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 31. This was a very dynamic episode, from AIZEN's striking return to the series, with his interactions with Rukia and Urahara, to Shunsui's anime original speech as he rallies the Shinigami and Quincy, and then not to forget how the anime does a fantastic job of including content that wasn't adapted in earlier episodes. All of the cut content was seamlessly integrated into this episode, and I'm just really surprised that they even had time to include some anime exclusive scenes despite the quantity of manga material that was adapted in this episode. Because of this downtime that we were granted following Yhwach absorbing the Soul King, it had allowed for a lot of comedic moments to be included into the episode, which otherwise would have been cut because they disrupt the flow of the story. So yeah, thanks to the downtime, we had those comedic scenes involving Hiyori and Shinji, and then towards the end of the episode, all of the comedic stuff with Kon. Episode 32 is titled The Holy Newborn, as we see the aftermath of Yhwach absorbing the Soul King, so I am definitely looking forward to seeing next week's episode. But for now, let me know your thoughts on episode 31. Did you enjoy AIZEN finally returning to the battlefield? How do you feel about the anime original scenes involving Shunsui's character? What do you think about all of these reworked moments involving Kenpachi, Mayuri, and the Vizards? And last but not least, what do you think about the return of Grimmjow right at the end of the episode? Be sure to continue the discussion in the comments. Let me know all of your thoughts about Against the Judgment, and be sure to stay tuned to the channel by subscribing, because tomorrow I'll be dropping a detailed manga versus anime comparison video which you do not want to miss. I'll be breaking down all of the changes, additions, and cuts that have been made to this episode. There is quite a lot to discuss, so subscribe so that you're the first one to know when I release that video. Lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow for my manga versus anime comparison. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.